Hi, Mike with Enviroscape LA. Check out my solar. That's a lot of power, baby. It powers all my koi ponds. It powers pretty much all the house. I don't have much of an electric bill, believe me. The cost on that, you don't want to know. Even with the rebates, you'll put tens of thousands of dollars into something like that. But you'll make your money back in the long run. However, we're in a really tough recession. And so what if you don't have the money to spend on a huge solar power system? Well, I'll tell you what, I ran into a little dilemma and I thought, you know what about for the millions of Americans out there that don't have the money for lots of solar power? You can do a little bit of solar power and guess what? You can save yourself money. Now, you know, there's National Geographic, the magazine people, now they're doing television programs. They're doing a lot of programs on Doomsday Preppers about people who are like storing food for, you know, after the big earthquake or whatever natural disaster happens. Well, you know, I found something that I think for Los Angelinos, people who live here in LA, I've lived here more than half a century, and my whole life people have been talking about the big one happening. What do they mean by that? Well, we live along the San Andreas Fault, and they're talking about earthquakes. We have a lot of them, but to be honest, it's not so bad that it's forced me or anybody I know to move, but they talk about the big one coming. Well, just think of it. If the big one ever were to happen and strike, which is possible, we would be without electricity, without power for a considerable amount of time. We'd be without water for a considerable amount of time because water is generated by pumps, and if the electricity goes out, you're not going to be having electricity, you're not going to be having water. Well, I found something that I think you'd be interested in, at least if you're a doomsday prepper, you want to think about how to continue eating even if things have fallen apart where you're at. I ran into something called vertical gardening, and what that is, it was invented by NASA about 50 years ago. Disney World in Florida perfected it, and then they made one for home use. There's one you can buy commercially that you can actually use for, if you can put it on your deck of your house. It's got a 2.5 foot footprint. In fact, here's one right here. It got really cold and it got down to like 38 degrees last night, so we found this little $150 hothouse. So we put it under here, we're probably going to keep it here for a month or so, just so, because plants need heat to grow. Well, I was wondering, what would happen if the electricity went out for a month? This vertical garden has the pump go on for 15 minutes, then it goes off for 15 minutes. So it has to keep constantly charging. What would happen if we had that scenario where I didn't have any electricity? Solar power. Solar power is pretty inexpensive to buy. In fact, I've got 3 panels here on my table. I could actually power that little unit there, the vertical garden, with one of these panels, but I have 3 here just to illustrate. What's it take to have solar power? Obviously you need your panels, you need a battery because this thing runs on a timer, goes on 15 minutes and off 15 minutes. So you have a timer, you have your battery, you have a little inverter. This little inverter, it basically changes the electricity from this into something you can use. So just stuff that you should think about. It's always good to be prepared. Anyway, this is more on the lines of sustainability. When you think sustainability, think Enviroscape LA.